All right. Are we live?
We are live and people are just getting admitted.
I see the countdown.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that just about does it. Good afternoon and happy Wednesday. Welcome to our first meeting of 2022. I don't know about you, but I finally made it to the part of the new year where I stopped accidentally writing 2021. And I'm now able to write 2022 on documents, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'd also like to quickly applaud anyone who is still sticking with their New Year's resolution. This morning, Google tells me if you've made it 2 weeks, you're within the 71% of folks who are being successful this year. So congratulations if you're in that number. We do have a packed agenda today, so I don't want to start with too many announcements, but I do want to cover a few items related to our meeting. You've all been placed on mute. So the way you can communicate with us is that you can type questions into the chat box. Please keep in mind those chat questions go to everyone. We have a team that is reviewing the questions as they come in, and we will try to get to them all. If time constrains us, or if you have other questions that come to you later, we will, of course, look at all those questions after the meeting ends and be sure to answer them as well. If you have any additional questions, there'll be a link in the meeting video that is sent out so you can reach the presenters as you feel the need arises. And certainly always feel free to reach out to my staff and myself whenever you have questions, comments, or ideas. You will find our contact information on the last slide of the presentation, so you can reference it at any time after the meeting that you need to. And now the agenda, I'm not going to read the agenda because we have lots and lots of information lined up for you. You also have access to the agenda if you have a limited time and are dropping in and out. We're going to do our best to stay on schedule to make that possible. So first up, to kick off 2022, we hear from Jason Bain and Magdalena Yak from University Accounting and Financial Reporting on the biennial inventory cycles and FabWeb aging report. Please take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Magdalena Yak, and I work for the Office of Property Accounting and Reporting. And I'm here today to share some exciting news with you when it comes to biennial inventory certifications. So the university is able to grant some reprieve for all units. There will be no certification of equipment due in 2022. Going forward, all biennial inventory certifications will be due on odd years. So the next inventory due date is in 2023. We are also keeping our exception of certifying every other year. That means that we will be certifying our inventory in odd years. So 2023, 2025, 2027, so on, so forth. To put it in more layman's terms, if you are a Chicago unit, that biennial inventory system will open for you on July 1st of 2022. You'll have 9 months to do your research. Your certification due date is March 31st, 2023. If you have any pending items to resolve, you'll have additional 3 months, and those items will need to be resolved by June 30th, 2023. If you are a Springfield unit, the inventory system will open for you on September 1st of 2022. You'll have until May 31st, 2023 to certify your inventory. And again, if you're certified with any pending items, you'll have those additional 3 months to complete your inventory by August 31st, 2023. If you are a Urbana or System Offices unit, the system will open for you on December 1st of 2022. Your due date certification is August 31st, 2023, and pending resolution or completion due date is 3 months later on November 2023. Now that's a lot of due dates, and you see on our next slides, we have that information posted on our equipment management bulletin page on property accounting web pages. We also have updated the business update CFO web page. We will have an OBFS News Center announcements coming out in the next couple of days. And we are working with AITS on updating the biennial inventory system with the new inventory certification due dates, so the system can send out proper notifications at proper time. You also have on the bottom of this slide my email address as well as the customer service representative's email address. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or the customer service representative, Juana Rodriguez. Now, that is all the great news that I have to share with you today. I'll pass the mic over to Jason Bain for some more updates. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Magdalena. I don't see any particular questions at this time, but again, don't hesitate to drop those in, and those are being monitored. So, or use the resources that have been provided. My name is Jason Bain. Again, I work with University Accounting and Financial Reporting, and over the next 12 months, I'm going to be presenting to you on a routine basis more information about equipment management. One of the first stops is, kind of looking at what information you have available to you as managers to see how your unit is performing in that new acquisition process, right? As we make those purchases with those account codes that are identified as equipment account codes, and those get transferred or moved from the acquisition purchasing part of that into FabWeb, right? We need to update those records and get those completed. Well, we have an aging report that we'll make available to you so that you can monitor that information, right? How quickly are we getting those things turned around? Those are supposed to be completed in a 30-day time period. But again, as you will see in some of our reports, that's not always being done in that time frame. Sometimes there's just not that much information yet. You may not have identified all those. There's other things that can hinder the completion of that in a timely manner. But I want to show you this at FabWeb aging report that, again, is available to everyone. You can simply visit the OBFS website and scroll down here to the equipment management web page. Off to the right-hand side, underneath the helpful documents, is this FabWeb aging report. Simply log into that application. It's pretty easy to grab. Type that information in. And these are the results that you will have. It'll bring back this information showing you, again, based on your college, your department codes, et cetera, et cetera. So if we were to look at chart 2 and chart 4 and system office activities, this is kind of where we're at, right? We have a total of 68 transactions here at UIS. We've got 2 that are in that less than 30 days. We've got 54 that are greater than 30 days, 9 that are greater than 60 days, and 3 that are outstanding, again, more than that 90 days, right? So we really want to make improvements on getting these things done, again, in that 30-day time period. What's nice about this report is on the second tab, right? It actually breaks things down, again, based on your unit, but then specifies, here's the purchase order that was involved with that, and then the document, right? The actual banner invoice number, or if it was a journal voucher that was created, right? That's creating these FabWeb records that need to be updated. So this is a great way to be able to help with that research component of it. Again, and you can see, you can filter and organize this information. So I would challenge you and help me as we look and evaluate this over the next year, improving upon, right? So take advantage of that aging report. And we hope to make continued improvements throughout the year to get those things completed in a more timely basis. You'll hear from me as we go forward throughout the year. If you have specific questions, our manager for the new acquisition staff within University Property Accounting is Ron Janowski, and there is his contact information. So,
Jason, there were a couple questions. Is the aging report in Eddy?
It's available from our website. You can simply, again, navigate to that page, and it's going to be available right here. We update it on a nightly basis. So I don't know if that report is in Eddy or not. It's something I can research and add back from a notes perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then does the aging report allow users to see items for which P tags have been requested but not yet received?
So if you've, no, the aging report is simply going to be the information has not been completed, right? So, it isn't in the hands where property accounting has completed their process. So, and that usually takes about a week. So if you submitted it in a week, again, that information will be completed and then that official record will be done. So again, none of them are going to be where we're working with this. If you do see some, again, just a quick, if you see some that are outstanding for a lengthy period of time and you know why, right? You know exactly why it's been out there, why you haven't submitted, reach out to that property contact that has been assigned to your unit and work with them directly, communicate with them so they can mark it off of their list and they're not sending you emails and following up with that information. Again, we're trying to open up those lines of communication so that, again, if there is something that we can do to help progress and get these records completed, then we'd love to be able to do that. If there's a reason not, we'd also like to know so that, again, we're not, continuing to communicate when there's nothing to share or to gain by creating additional emails.
Thank you. And I just want to point out that there was another question asked in the chat and Magdalena did answer it, but the question is there a system in place to remove items from inventory that are no longer in our unit? And Magdalena did respond that they can be discussed in further detail. So I think just get in touch with property accounting, Magdalena, and she can help you from there.
Thanks, Dana. Yes, please reach out to me because usually those records are based by org number or unit number. There's different scenarios, different situations, different reasons why they should be removed. And I can help you make that decision and guide you on how to do it so they don't come back for your next inventory list. Thanks.
Thank you all. No further questions.
That's great. Well, thank you, Jason and Magdalena. Next up, we have a presentation of GASB 87 from University Accounting and Financial Reporting and Danielle Stoner.
Hi, everyone. So over the last year, we have made a couple of announcements in these meetings about the university's transition to accounting standard GASB 87, which covers the accounting treatment and payment process for any leased real estate or equipment by all campuses at the university. So originally, we had been in contact with individuals who were responsible for making lease payments or recording the lease payments in Banner about doing the amortization that is required for the accounting process. After reevaluating how extensive this project is and how much additional work it causes for the unit, we have decided to take that process back into our office at UAFR. Hopefully that makes those individuals' jobs easier who are in charge of making lease payments or recording lease payments. Something important to note, though, is that we still have to ensure that lease payments that are made do match the contracted amount, because even though we're taking that job back over, the information still has to be accurate of what's occurring in the unit versus what is stated in the contract. So most of you have heard from me directly. We sent out an email to the individuals who are typically responsible for this. So basically the process is mostly the same as it was prior. You make your payments, you record it to the correct account code, and then we email you towards the end of the year, give you a call if there are any discrepancies. So not much has actually changed, despite all the meetings that we've had about it. So does anybody have any questions on that?
There's
Okay.
nothing in the chat.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, if anybody has any questions or something that you think of later after this meeting is over, feel free to email me or IM me directly. I'm happy to answer questions about leases at any time.
All right. Thank you again. Next up,
Thanks.
we have Darren Strader, Amanda Schleeper, and Angela Bensel to provide an update on the submission process for vendor invoice updates.
Hello, thank you for joining us today for the submission process for PO vendor invoices. My name is Amanda Schleeper. I am the Assistant Director of Support Services in UPay. Angela Benzel is our Senior Coordinator in PO Payments, and Darren Strader is our Senior Associate Director of Support Services. And they are also joining me today. We have recently updated our OBFS upay@uillinois.edu email auto reply to include the submission procedures for PO vendor invoices. Along with this auto reply, we'll also be sending out a university-wide announcement explaining the procedures in a little bit more detail. This announcement will explain what we're discussing today. The number of PO invoices received from the units via the general university payable customer service email, which is the OBFS upay@uillinois.edu, has greatly increased. And that volume has resulted in delays in UPay's response time to the email inquiries. To respond to customer service emails in a timelier manner and in preparation for the expanded iBuy invoicing, Payables is working to discontinue the acceptance of PO-based invoices via the OBFS upay@uillinois.edu email. Specific dates, discontinuation dates will be provided at a later time. Units should now begin submitting vendor invoices to the UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu. And this email is provided within the presentation here. This email is for PO invoice submission only and is not monitored. So we want to be sure that we stress that it's not monitored. So if other things go there, it will not be answered. And also, UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu was added to the iBuy PO in October of 2019. PO terms and conditions indicate the vendor should submit an invoice to the bill to address on the PO. Terms and conditions are included with every university PO. For iBuy POs, that's UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu or the invoice processing center located in Rantoul. And for banner POs, that's the invoice processing center located in Rantoul. Per longstanding university procedure and account payables industry best practices, PO invoices should be submitted by the vendor directly to Payables Invoice Processing Center in Rantoul. University POs contain specific instructions for vendor invoice submission. One of the objectives of the Source to Pay project is to increase electronic invoicing. As progress on the Source to Pay project continues and invoice presentment processes are examined, it will be critical that vendors follow the invoice presentment instructions on the PO. Initially, the UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu was just open for vendors. We are in the process of opening this to those within the university as well. And again, please note, this is only for the initial PO vendor invoice submission only and is unmonitored. Again, I can't stress that enough. Updates to invoices, including holds, questions, etc., will not be addressed within the UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu. Those types of emails should be submitted to OBFS upay@uillinois.edu. Non-PO invoices should still be received by the units, and PO invoices must contain a valid PO number when submitted. I haven't been watching the chat here. I think Angela's been watching that, but after today's presentation, if you have additional questions, if something comes to mind, anything like that, we've included our UPay customer service phone numbers and email address for you today.
Amanda, there are a couple of questions. It seems like they're coming in fast and furious here, but let's go through a couple. One was answered, but I just want to read it out. I was told that we can still send invoices containing PHI after being redacted to OBFS upay@uillinois. Is this correct? And Angela responded that those should now be sent to UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu. So just wanted to point that one out. The next question, when will OBFS vendor invoice payments process website be updated with the new email address?
We have heard from several people about that. We are in the process of updating that. I promise it fact, I saw some emails today going back and forth. It should be updated very soon. We have taken note of that, and it is definitely coming. I apologize that I can't give a specific date, but we are aware of it and we are in the process of updating.
Okay. And what if the invoices required review before processing for payment, such as standing POs?
I'd like to take that one. This is Jim Martini from University Payables. We'll work with you if you have a situation where a vendor just cannot produce a payable invoice. They can't put a purchase number on there or something. But if we've got a situation where the vendor is not adhering to the rules, if you will, of the purchase order, and they're just careless, we've got to quit interceding. We are working as we move our invoices to an electronic presentment. We are working to provide units a way to review after they're presented, but before they're paid. But we've got a little bit of a chicken and egg situation where if we haven't developed the process where vendors are presenting payable invoices in a proper way with a purchase order number, with a description of what they're shipping, the invoice date, a unique invoice number, and so on. If you folks are out there correcting those every time a vendor presents the invoice, we got to work on that vendor. We will continue to accept invoices from PO invoices from departments to the new invoice box. And I apologize for all the confusion and angst that was created by our first communication via the auto reply. We need your help here. If you have a situation that you have to review every invoice, let us know. And to respond to one question, credit memos will go to the same invoice box. You pay vendor invoices at ulillinois.edu.
Jim, if you could just stay on for another couple minutes to answer a couple more questions. But if there is a discrepancy, can a unit stop an invoice from being processed?
If there's a discrepancy, they can email the OBFS UPay at ulillinois.edu, or they can give us a call. And I would suggest that, if it's until it's in BDM, we are not going to be able to see it on our end to make that reference. So if they want to let us know with that banner invoice number, the I number, that would be fantastic.
Okay, and you talked about the vendors submitting to the UPay vendor invoices. Can the departments also submit to that mailbox?
Yes.
Yep, we are in the process of updating that. So, yep, and I believe that got updated today. So you should be able to do that.
Okay, and then there was a question about how to process special payments.
Special payment requests will still be processed as noted in the instructions on the document. Those will still go to OBFS UPay at ulillinois.edu. But if I could throw in a quick plug too, it never hurts to put special pay or special pay request in the subject line. So that helps it stand out, and we get those moved on as soon as we see that subject line. So.
Okay. What happens when the vendor continues to not include the PO in invoices regardless of the unit reminding them to?
Well, that element is key. If they cannot put a purchase order, if there is not a purchase order number on the invoice, we don't know what unit is attributable, which unit originated that. We deal with thousands of these a day. So we've got to stress getting a purchase order number associated with the invoice, a valid purchase order number. And at this point, we don't have time to promptly notify anybody because we've got to do quite a bit of detailed research if there's no purchase order number on the invoice.
So if an invoice is placed on hold, how's the unit or vendor notified about the hold?
We send an email.
An email to both the vendor and the department?
We do not send an email to the vendor today.
Okay.
We send an email to the department and we CC a couple others on the relevant campus, relevant university.
Okay. I see someone tried to submit an invoice to UPay vendor invoices and the email was rejected. So I might ask you to reach out directly to maybe Amanda on that one. And then there was another specific question, which might be best discussed offline, but tell me, how do you get ComEd to add invoice numbers and purchase numbers to invoices?
Well, those are a challenge because they deal with customer number.
And
And-
needed number a lot of times.
Yep.
Okay. What happens when a vendor submits duplicate payments by changing invoice numbers for the same services? It becomes too late to fix duplicate payments.
Well, that
And-
is, we should not allow, and if we catch vendors doing that, increasing, counterfeiting invoice numbers, then we should call them out. And I keep in mind that we can place, even if payment has gone out the door, we can place a credit memo on the vendor's account here at the university, in effect offsetting future payments by the amount of the previous duplicate. That made any sense? We just need to know it. We're not going to notice. We're not going to be able to catch duplicate payments due to altered invoice numbers. I just can't. So you've got to help us there. We're trying to do the best we can in an environment where sometimes, the vendors don't display the proper discipline.
So if a vendor sends an invoice to the unit, how will they know that it has also been sent directly to university payables?
Say that
Well, why
again,
would
I'm
a
sorry.
vendor be submitting it to two different places?
Yeah.
I mean, they should not. They should follow one path. And that's what we're trying to get to, because as we develop more volume in the electronic invoice, where there is no paper, there is no even image sometimes of an invoice in a truly electronic world, that process is not going to present an opportunity for units to intercede. So we've got to come up with, like I said before, a way of posting the invoice and allowing units to review before payment. That's one of the objectives we have with iBuy. When we begin processing invoices in iBuy, there can be a review by the department.
Okay, I'm gonna just ask one more question, then a comment, which might make sense in light of all these questions. But let's see. Someone had experienced the vendor keeps calling the department for payment status. So can vendors check on status now, or how do they know where in the process
Vendors
it is?
should contact our customer service department.
Okay.
We're set up to be able to retrieve, a vendor detail quickly. And you should refer them to us and not be bothered.
Okay, and then just a comment asking if UPay would be willing to host a conference to announce these changes in more detail. It seems like there's a lot of questions and I certainly didn't get to all of them here. I suppose that they can contact UPay directly if they have a specific question, but just something to think about because it seems like there are quite a few questions out there.
We
And-
communicated poorly. I'll fall on my sword there. We added confusion, but we are really at this point in time changing nothing other than the destination inbox. We are allowing departments to submit purchase order based invoices that they received. We're allowing vendors to submit purchase order based invoice that they originate to the UPay vendor invoices at uillinois.edu. We're separating those boxes just so we can provide better customer service to the generic OBFS UPay UIllinois. We were not responding to people. We were having trouble keeping up. So the only thing that's changing, we're still allowing units to submit invoices via email. We are still allowing vendors to submit invoices via email. We're just changing the destination. We will continue to work on a better process because we have to get to the point where vendors are reliably producing accurate invoices and sending them in an automatic fashion, in an electronic fashion. And I saw a note that somebody indicates that grant billing requires images. I think that's changing. I think some of the federal agencies with all of the COVID stuff, we should look at that. We should check on that.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I have a record of all of the questions here. I will make sure that UPay gets a copy of them. And if we have not addressed them here, I will ask you if you can. I'll work with you to provide a response so everyone does get an answer to their questions. So if you do have any questions that were not addressed to this point, please keep putting them in the chat and we'll follow up on that after the meeting. But in the interest of time, I think we need to move on.
All right.
All right.
Certainly. Oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? Was that Darren?
No, I was just thinking out loud.
Okay, certainly allowed to do that. All right, so to move us on, and thank you, certainly a lot of interest and very timely announcements. And like Dana said, we'll get on top of those questions and see what we could do. We will now turn our attention to the FY22 space survey and training from Facility Information Management and Business Services. Patricia Pak.
Hi, thank you, William. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to take a few minutes today to let everyone know that the FY22 space survey this year will be an F&A survey, meaning the space and research data that we gather will be used in the next F&A proposal that will be submitted later this year. Please note that the last year's data will not be used because we were granted a 1-year extension. So this data for FY22 will be crucial for the proposal. Once again, my office, which is Planning, Sustainability, and Project Management, will be pairing with System Government Costing on this very large initiative. And we will provide all survey administrators, perhaps better known as space gatekeepers, we'll provide them with all the necessary resources to complete the surveys for their respective departments. And these trainings, as previously, they will include live webinars, video and PDF tutorials, as well as one-on-one training sessions. So this slide captures some of the key dates to keep in mind for now. Please note that the opening announcement will go out on Tuesday, March 1st. And as previously done, we'll schedule 2 live webinar training sessions. Those will be held via Zoom on the following days, Thursday, March 17th and Tuesday, March 29th, both from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. And for those of you who cannot attend, webinar recordings will also be available online. And my team is and will be available to assist with one-on-one trainings, either via Zoom or Teams. So feel free to email me with any questions, or if you would like to schedule a training session in advance. A survey will then open for 1 month from Monday, April 4th through Friday, May 6th. So because this is an F&A survey, we have very firm deadlines to meet, and we will not have much room for any survey extensions. So I do encourage those of you, particularly with research-heavy units, to start working on this in advance. We would be happy to provide you with copies of your FY21 space survey so that you can start reviewing your respective data and marking up any changes. This way, when the survey is open, you would mainly have to worry about data entry in the FIM web portal. There are various ways to tackle the space survey, but we have found that this proactive approach has been quite effective for many departments in the past. After that March 1st official Provost Vice Chancellor announcement is released, we will once again repeat this message at the March AFO meeting. And in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have. And last slide, please. Let's see if I may. Thank you so much. Oh, I guess it was just questions. So thank you again for your time today. I look forward to collaborating with many of you this spring on this important initiative.
All right, thank you, Patricia. Lots of great information.
Thank
So
you.
we have 2 more presentations before the break to kind of take score and calibrate. I will now welcome Dana Lebreau and Brian Zumpf to run us through recent policy updates as well as upcoming policy changes. Please take it away, Dana.
Thank you, Bill. As you mentioned, we're going to talk about some recent policy updates, move into some upcoming policy changes, and then just our contact info. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, you see a need for a new policy, please reach out to us directly. We're happy to help. So some recent policy changes. Our office received many requests going into the end of last year about the possibility of expensing holiday gathering costs. So we worked with University Payables to further define the types of expenses that may be reimbursed in relation to a holiday gathering that recognizes the achievements of a unit over the prior year. Because of these questions, we realized that we need to release a memo annually in early December to be a reminder for the entire system and provide clarity so you all can plan your holiday gatherings. So please look for that next year or late November, early December, and hopefully that information will be timely at that point. The next recent update was 18.6 sales and use tax goods and services tax. We partnered with University Tax Compliance and Analysis to issue a minor update to 18.6 that clarifies that gifts purchased for employees by system units are exempt from sales and use tax. And then 1941 electronic signatures. This policy was recently updated to address the responsibility for maintaining verification records of documents with electronic signatures, and it gives specific examples. So we specifically mentioned Adobe Sign in this policy, as well as using the audit report as an example for the verification to be retained by the office. If you have any questions about any of those new policy updates, please just get in touch with us directly. Now, Brian's going to talk about some upcoming policy changes. Bernadette, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. So we have Chrome River policy change discussions are wrapping up right now, and we currently have a team beginning a review of necessary changes to the policy manual based on Contracts Plus. With regard to policy 8.4.2, electronic codes for human subject payments, we're in the end stages of finalizing a policy addressing the availability and use of e-codes as an Amazon credit as a financial incentive for human subjects to participate in human subject research projects. In the near future, we will be bringing the policy to you for an open comment feedback period. Please look for an alert from the Business and Finance News in order to provide your thoughts. We have recently undertaken the decommissioning of the policy approval of financial documents. We've been working with subject matter experts to identify portions of this Section 1 policy approval of financial documents in order to identify the sections that need to be moved elsewhere as we proceed with the decommissioning of the policy, which will take place on Friday, January 21st. And as you may already know, we conduct an annual review of all policies, and we have contacted subject matter experts to schedule a timeline for updating items as part of the 2021 evaluation. And we just want to remind you that policy is constantly changing, and we know that policy changes arise throughout the year and may not even be present at the time of the annual evaluation. Please do not hesitate to notify the policy office of gaps in policy or a need to update a policy due to a change in business operations or procedure. And of course, feel free to reach out with any questions to Dana or myself. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Brian. And I see one question regarding updates with Amazon. And I hate to do this, but I'm going to kick this question to purchasing. I know Deborah and Aaron will be presenting later on after the short break. So I'm hoping they can address anything new with Amazon at that point. Okay, I think we can move into the next section. Yes, financial process performance measures dashboard updates. Thank you, Bernadette. Just as a reminder, this FPPM dashboard, this is a dashboard that will help unit or college management really get a handle on the compliance health of a unit or college. And the analysis team has been working with AITS to create a prototype, a proof of concept, that we then took to many of you on this call for initial feedback. We collected that feedback, and through those interviews, we were able to determine some additional metrics that those that we talked to felt were very much needed for this dashboard, and also also a better way to present the information and resources. So we're currently working with AITS to come up with a second proof of concept. It's been delayed somewhat just due to the rollout of new platforms with Contracts Plus and Chrome River. Those are going to change the way that we pull some of these reports. So the project unfortunately has been pushed a little bit, but we're hoping that by the next AFO BMG meeting, we will have some additional updates for you then. If you have any questions about this project, or if you would like to see it and you haven't, please get in touch with me directly, and I'm happy to show you where we are and collect even more information. So more to come on this one. And Bill, I think that takes us to the end of the first half.
Yep. Thank you, Dana. I'm very excited about the performance measures and really excited for when that gets implemented, and we'll be watching closely. Yeah, improbably, we are 2 minutes ahead of schedule. So I think we can, if I can ask everyone to reconvene right at 1:50, we will start up. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Sue Chen.
All right. I don't know that I have a great way of knowing how many people are back, but it's 1:50 sharp. So we're going to give it a go. I just would like to remind everyone, there was a lot of questions and we didn't get to all the questions. So we will compile those and we will try to get responses for everyone in the coming weeks. I don't know if I can make a time commitment, but we'll gather that and get on that. So to kick us off for the second half of today's agenda, we have a presentation from Deborah Matlock and Aaron Rosenthal from UIC Purchasing and Contract Management. Take it away, Deborah. I'm afraid you're muted. We made it halfway before the mute button got us. Thanks, Deborah.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here at MAB in my office, and I want to welcome everyone to 2022 and to UIC Purchasing and Contract Management. We're going to start with Aaron Rosenthal, who is the Senior Associate Director for Contract Management. And take it away, Aaron.
Good afternoon, everyone. A belated Happy New Year. We hope everyone's settling into 2022. Wanted to start out with just a couple quick updates about Contracts Plus, our new contract management system. If you could please advance the slide, Bernadette. Thank you. And so,
and wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt Aaron just briefly. I also want to acknowledge that Jill Menezes, Director of Purchasing and Contract Management for University of Illinois Springfield, is also on.
oh, thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Jill. We continue to be really energized about Contracts Plus, our new contract management system. We know that you're hearing about it from us really every chance that we get. That's just how excited we are about all the great efficiencies it's going to bring. First, starting with a quick snapshot of where we're at in the deployment. With this contract management system, we've been deploying it fairly quickly. Think of it as a pseudo big bang approach, although it hasn't all been in one wave. Notably, going back to November of last year, we went live with select users. And what does that mean? We really deliberately focused on users who had been live in our prior contract management system, ICS, or the Illinois Contract System, recognizing that the change management activities required for those who had already been live in a contract system weren't going to require as much of a heavy lift, and focused on units by their 3-digit OR code. And what we're working towards for February 14th is really the go live with everyone else. And so come February 14th, University of Illinois, and specifically at UIC, will initiate all of their contracts to UIC Purchasing and Contract Management through Contracts Plus. Two of the largest units that still remain in that next phase of the deployment are the hospital and College of Medicine. Next slide, please. A number of you have already participated in Contracts Plus trainings and change management activities, and certainly for those of you who are going to be live in February, we strongly encourage you to participate in all of those sessions. With that said, we really wanted to highlight, and already have in other outlets, but wanted to highlight again today, what we see as some of the most notable changes here at UIC. Number one, we've talked a little bit before in some outlets about the second party process update, but just a quick recap for those who haven't heard what's coming. When we looked at Illinois Contract System, ICS for short, there was a bit of a challenge in running searches and reporting by vendor, or what we're now calling second party, the second party being defined as the other non-university party to a contract. And so if we're contracting with a vendor, the second party is the vendor. In the context of a RevGen contract, that second party is often called the client. But because the ICS data entry was completely freeform for those second party names, it was just frankly quite a mess. Recognizing that, and to try and clean up that second party database and allow you all to run greater searches and reports with the new contract management system, a process improvement was implemented whereby second parties now have to be formally established in the system prior to a contract request being submitted in the new contract management system of Contracts Plus. For those of you who have worked on purchasing and purchasing contracts and requisitions in the past, you're probably already familiar with that process through usage of a vendor information form to get a vendor established in iBuy or Banner, iBuy being our primary requisition system. The good news is that Contracts Plus is another module of iBuy, and so those vendors that are already established in iBuy on the requisition side will already be in the system for Contracts Plus for you to initiate expenditure contracts. The most notable piece of the process change, though, is going to impact no fund and receivable contracts, where historically there has not been a need to formally establish those quote second parties in the system prior to requesting a contract. What we're going to request going forward with Contracts Plus is anytime you have a need to request a contract in the system, that second party will need to be established in Contracts Plus first. For payable contracts or expenditure contracts where the university is paying money out, they're probably already going to be in there from the requisition side. However, for no fund and receivable contracts, we've created a special lane whereby there is currently a section of the vendor information form that allows you to select that a no fund or receivable contract only is required. And in those situations, the system will only request on that streamlined vendor information form some very minimal information about the second party, primarily the name of the entity and their address, again, to make sure that we don't end up with 20 different versions of the same second party in the system. I see a couple questions were entered in the chat already.
Yeah, Aaron,
Well-
I can ask those questions for you. Where can someone sign up for contracts and training? And I think Derek just put the link there, so you should be able to find that. Will contracts be searchable in Contracts Plus?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the greatest benefits of this new contract management system, once we roll it out to all of our wonderful units at UIC, is that you'll be able to search and view all of your units' historical contracts within the system directly. So search and reporting is a very core value add of the new system.
Great. And for those users that don't have access to Contracts Plus, how do they check the status of a contract submitted via the purchasing email?
Currently, from now until February 14th, if you ever have a need to check in on the status of a contract and you're not yet live in Contracts Plus, your best first line of offense is to reach out to the individual who is processing that contract. And so when the contract gets assigned in purchasing and contract management, you should be CC'd if you're the unit contact on that contract. You'll be CC'd on the email that identifies who is processing that contract. And by reaching out to them directly, they can provide a status update. Once you are live in Contracts Plus, though, for those that aren't live yet, that'll be February 14th and beyond, you'll be able to access that status information directly within Contracts Plus.
Great. And then a clarification, just what is a no fund contract?
Yes, thank you. Great question. We have all these wonderful terms that we throw around and sometimes take for granted that not everyone's exposed to those on a daily basis. So within contracts, we think of a couple different categories. The first being a payable or expenditure contract, which is when the university is paying money out. The next category we think of is what's called a receivable or a RevGen, revenue generating contract. That is when money is being paid into the university. We think of a no fund contract as a contract where no money is changing hands at all. It could be something like an affiliation agreement or a student placement agreement. And then we've got a fourth wonderful category that we call hybrid, which is paid in. I don't see any more questions. We'll keep rolling on the standard slides. Another point we wanted to highlight, and this is something that, back one slide, just a couple more quick points. The interplay of the contract request and requisition. Notably, the new contract management system, although it is another module of iBuy, the piece that you're processing in Contracts Plus is merely the contract. There is still a need to create a purchase order to effectuate payment against that contract. And there's still a need to submit a requisition to facilitate purchasing's ability to create that purchase order. What that means for payable and expenditure contracts is that anytime you have a contract where the university is paying money out, you'll be initiating both a contract request within Contracts Plus, as well as a requisition. The system is somewhat integrated, but not fully integrated quite yet. We're hoping the vendor can make some strides in that in the coming years. But at least for now, you have to submit those two documents in the system, the contract request and the requisition. And the way that we're really going to try to tie those together as closely as possible is by cross-referencing the number on each. Meaning when you submit that contract request, there's a field on the contract request to fill in the requisition number if it's a payable contract. And the flip side is that on the requisition, there is a field to reference and fill in the contract request number. By putting those numbers on each document, we'll be able to tie it all together and ultimately route it to the individual who is processing that transaction. To also help facilitate purchasing and contract management's ability to identify requisitions involving contracts, we're using one of the questions on that requisition form that asks whether a contract is involved to move the requisition to a special queue so that we can have some special handling and attention on all those recs involving contracts. The last core update we wanted to mention again today, which is a notable process change for UIC, Historically at UIC, our contract unit approvals have all been on the front end of the process. Any of you who have used a contract approval routing form before know that those approvals occur on the CARF to kick off the whole process. To bring us in line with what was happening at the other universities, as well as an OBFS policy, recognizing that the unit head is really tasked with financial responsibility for that contract, there is a new step along with those front-end unit approvals in Contracts Plus. And so we'll still see those unit approvals on the front end with the contract request, which is the electronic equivalent of the CARF. However, once UIC Purchasing and Contract Management processes that contract and it goes through the whole process and is ready for signature, it's going to go back to your unit head for one final approval before the university facilitates signature on that contract. And that will allow the unit head to confirm that they support the final version of the contract. Piece to make your unit heads aware of, please, and just to keep an eye out for. But the good news is that unit approvals in the system are very easy to facilitate, and so we don't anticipate that that will cause any delays.
Aaron, there are a couple of other questions. So for most of us that will be setting up payable contracts in iBuy on or Contracts Plus after Valentine's Day, February 14th, is that correct?
Yeah, so for anyone who's not currently live in Contracts Plus, yes, that will be a Valentine's gift to you all as well as us, that starting that date, you'll process your contracts in Contracts Plus.
Okay, and does a purchase order go to the vendor for them to invoice against?
Now, great question, Rich, and no changes with regards to what occurs on the requisition PO front. So just like current state today, once purchasing processes and approves a PO in iBuy, that PO automatically gets transmitted to the vendor via the method that the vendor establishes on their vendor information form. So increasingly in most cases via email, and then the PO gets automatically transmitted to that vendor. And then once the PO is created, and I go in full circle back to some of the comments that Yupei was making earlier, by including that purchase order number on the invoice, they're able to know which purchase order to process the invoice against.
Okay, and then just a clarification about which contracts we're talking about. Is this for contracts for 10,000 and over?
Going forward, all of our contracts, with the exception of the small subset of unit-specific templates and certain templates under $10,000, will be processed in Contracts Plus. And so notably, there's still, for example, a revenue generating template for services under $10,000. Those will not get processed in Contracts Plus. Those will continue to get processed by your unit, get signed by your unit head outside the system. Notably, on the purchasing side, though, we transitioned away from what had formerly been the contract for services under $10,000. Those transactions still now get processed with merely a requisition and a purchase order if they've been formally handled on that template. But this will apply to contracts under $10,000 to the extent that they're not on one of those special templates that currently get signed by your unit head.
Okay, and will terms and conditions on purchase orders potentially conflict with the contract language? I don't know if you have what you need with that question, or if Rich, you might need to provide a little bit more info.
I think that's I think it's clear, Dana.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that there is the possibility that what is stated in the purchase order terms and conditions could be different than what's stated in the contract. However, we have some handy language in the contract as well as the purchase order that talks about, in the event of a conflict, document X will prevail. So in the case of most mutually executed contracts, we're typically looking for the language of the contract to prevail in a conflict.
Thank you for the clarification.
And we've also worked to make the terms and conditions on our purchase orders that are issued with both iBuy and Banner POs to be consistent with our template language.
Exactly. So in the case of a template, it would be a moot point as well. Great point.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to transition back to Deborah to provide some notable purchasing updates. Thanks.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Dana. So in the world of purchasing, we have continued to optimize our iBuy platform, and we've in fact included now as an iBuy form the special payment request, which is used for deposits, prepayments, and other non-net 30 payments that are required for vendors. And that's now been added as an iBuy form. So just as we have the purchase request form, the standing order form, the solicitation information form, you can find that special payment request on the homepage of iBuy as a new iBuy form. It will then route to payables from within iBuy. In the world of non-conforming POs and invoices, everyone is in the habit of asking purchasing to in fact approve the payment of a non-conforming PO or invoice based on UPay putting those invoices or purchase orders on hold. And for anyone that doesn't understand what a non-conforming PO or invoice is, it is one that is out of sequence, meaning that the invoice comes in before a PO is issued and or before the work or services are in fact provided. So what we're going to do is, I'm in fact recommending a big change that we will in fact include information about a non-conforming situation in our iBuy forms. So just as we've added information in the purchase requisition form for quotes, for small purchases, and whether or not a contract is involved, this is something that I'm recommending primarily to comply with changes that had occurred some years ago in the procurement rules, but which we had never really responded to. I'm asking that people work directly with UPay on resolution for payment of your non-conforming POs. Purchasing really is not in the business of making payments, and I don't want us to appear that we are not operating consistent with the rules and procurement code. And most of you know, if you've had any interaction with me, I am a compliance kind of a girl. So stay tuned, but hopefully we'll be able to make some additional strides in our utilization of iBuy and make it that much more customer friendly in our hopes of providing excellent customer service to our UIC customers. In the areas of freight and shipping, everyone was a little appalled when we required people to add a separate iBuy line item for freight and shipping. At UIC, a number of customers were used to where they could estimate freight and shipping, or it might not have been included as a separate line item, and it was still paid by payables. And we moved to a process by which payables was putting such invoices on hold if in fact the freight and shipping that was actually invoiced did not match what was on the purchase order that was issued to that vendor. So I just want to give everyone an update that it is still being discussed. We are working with payables and with the interim comptroller to try and address that in a meaningful way for our iBuy users and UIC specifically customers. Next slide, please, Dana or Bernadette. Okay. We've talked about this before, but as of January 1st of this year, the BEP goal for the use of minorities, women, and persons with disabilities was increased to 30%, which is up from 20%. We have included the link to the Illinois Central Management Services website that will allow you to search for BEP vendors. We continue to encourage, and in fact strongly encourage, so that the university can hope to achieve that 30% goal, which is not based on any individual award, but is based on the total of awards that are done within a fiscal year. And we do encourage you to search for BEP vendors, to work with the Office of Procurement Diversity in identifying BEP vendors to satisfy the university's procurement needs. As of the first of the year, the FY23 accounting period is open, so please do submit your FY3 requisitions, and they will be processed accordingly to the accounting date that is stated in the requisition. I see that note, and I'll come back to it in just a minute in the chat. And we are still awaiting the Chief Procurement Officer for Higher Education to issue rules that will incorporate the many changes which I talked about in the November AFO BMG meeting that were made in the FY21 legislative session. I'm going to address this chap of how can we interrupt the cycle of non-conforming purchases. I encounter these with faculty all the time, especially when they are writing books or doing research off campus. It is an exhausting process. Yes, it is. To get things paid when items are out of sequence. The only thing that I can tell you is to remind them that it is not only non-conforming, it is an unauthorized purchase. It does not comply with the procurement code or rules to, in fact, have received services or supplies prior to having a purchase order or contract in place. And we are specifically directed that we are not to pay. However, the university does have a policy that might be a stretch. We do have a practice in place by which we always pay. However, UPay does require documentation to support payments that are made out of sequence. So just keep reminding anybody who is operating with vendors, they need to be mindful of the requirements of the law. We are a public university and we are required to comply with the law, and to just remind them of what the proper sequence is in terms of the placement of purchase orders and the submission of invoices by vendors, not until after that purchase order has in fact been issued to them. There was also a question earlier about the status of Amazon. We recognize in purchasing that Amazon is the end all be all for various items, for everything. I mean, my God. But the reason why we had to shut down the Amazon for business accounts is because we are a public institution that is bound by Illinois law, as well as various state certifications, registrations, and other requirements that Amazon had failed to meet. Now, everyone is aware that we have a small purchase limit in the state of Illinois of up to $100,000. If in fact there is a succession of purchases with the same vendor that exceed $100,000, then we are operating again outside of the law. In the case of Amazon, from January of 20 through January of 21, UIC had done over $2 million worth of purchases with Amazon. There had been a total by the U of I system of $5.7 million worth of purchases. And so that was why we shut it down, because it did come to the attention of the Chief Procurement Officer for Higher Education. All purchases are subject to the oversight of that Chief Procurement Officer. And we then began aggressively to work with Amazon to obtain appropriate state certifications and disclosures. The latest update is that Amazon has said to IPEC that they are working on their disclosures. They are planning on submitting certifications, we understand, by the end of this month. And those will then be submitted to the Chief Procurement Officer for review. Such certifications are intended to address those items that Amazon provides itself and are not going to extend to third-party suppliers that Amazon then aggregates for. So it won't be 100% of what the current Amazon offerings are, but we are also hoping to work with them to tailor their offerings in some type of a catalog that will comply with what state requirements are. So stay tuned. We are working, the Assistant Vice President for IPEC for the Illinois Public Higher Education Cooperative, Aaron Carter, is the primary contact on behalf of all of the universities, but specifically University of Illinois with Amazon. So he's working.
Deborah, do you know, is Amazon working with any other public universities in Illinois right now?
We know that Amazon is attempting to be the source. And in fact, they have offered to serve basically as what is our iBuy system for some of the other public universities. Our understanding is that we are all operating consistently, meaning that Amazon has not potentially supplied the level of dollars that they have to the University of Illinois. But our understanding from IPEC is that Amazon has been shut down because of their inability to date to comply with Illinois law.
Okay, thank you very much.
And next slide, which I think should be, oh, let's talk about, there's this new Commission on Equity and Inclusion, which was also effective as of January 1st. We only have heard that Kelly Keys has been named as chair. There are 7 members defined by law that are to be named by the governor. And so we're still awaiting anxiously information about that commission because based on the changes to the law in 2021, there will be changes and impact to purchasing processes, but we don't know what those are yet. Other than the changes to how a request for proposal will be evaluated and scored. So again, we are awaiting rules from both the Chief Procurement Officer for Higher Education, as well as this new commission, who by law is tasked with promulgating rules to discuss how they will in fact operate and interact with the various purchasing offices. I do want to remind people that emergency purchases, as the changes in the law, also must use best efforts to include BEP vendors. And so again, we are encouraging you to work with the Office of Procurement Diversity and also to use the link that is provided in this deck to identify BEP vendors in the particular commodity codes for the supplies and services which you are seeking. And with that, will you advance the slide? And if anybody has any questions.
Deborah, there was one last question. If procurement with MAFBE vendors increased after we were instructed not to use Amazon?
Good question. And I don't have an answer.
Well, it went into effect January 1, right? This year, technically went into effect.
No. They're asking about when we shut down Amazon, which was last year. Valerie's asking about when we shut down Amazon, which was
okay. I'm thinking increase the
effective,
goal.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, the goal was still 20%, but I don't know. Shauna, maybe that's something you can look into.
Yeah, we can look into that. Yep.
Okay. All right, but thank you for the question.
Okay, no other questions in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deborah, Aaron, and I think I heard Jill Menendez helped out. So thank you very much. I'm going to move us right along to see if we can make up a little bit of time. I'm going to present Jim Martini, Philippe, and Derek Riles to provide the latest updates on the Source to Pay project. So please take it away.
Thank you, Bill.
Philippe, you want to start?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philippe Przebysz, and I'm the change management lead for Source to Pay program. I'm delighted to be here as always with you. And following up on Aaron's gift announcement, we also come with a Valentine's gift to you. So for those of you who are not yet on Contracts Plus, my colleague Derek Browse will share some critical information on how to onboard with Contracts Plus. But before we get there, let us provide you with some important updates on Chrome River and Chrome River deployment. So that's the Valentine gift we may have for you. Joining me now is Jim Martini, and Jim, feel free to take it away. Jim, you're muted if you're talking.
Talking to myself. Thanks, Philippe, and thanks everybody for joining. As the slide that's being displayed suggests or indicates, we are going live February 14th. We have concentrated training available with Philippe, Derek's help, and UPay staff for 2 sessions a day for the first 3 weeks. Now, you don't have to attend 2 sessions. We anticipate people learning enough to be able to use Chrome River in roughly a single 90-minute session. But to accommodate people's schedules, we're offering the same session multiple times. And there's also some job aids and training registration is now available on the website that's in this link. And we will continue training sessions as needed post deployment. We've got to have new people, and when people leave the university, new folks come on board, we've got to share with them how to use Chrome River. So training will continue, but we are emphasizing a concentrated training period for the 3 weeks starting January 31st. And we have also constructed on our service request form, we have constructed a specific Chrome River queue, which means that subjects, inquiries and questions about Chrome River will be routed to the experts in payables, and we're going to be doing the best we can to respond to your needs. The next slide. We are going live February 14th is the traditional expense report, reimbursements to employees for travel. Both T-card transactions and P-card functionality will go live February 14th. Miscellaneous reimbursements will also be in Chrome River, no longer in TEM. We do not want you to use TEM for the standard items listed above that, the 3 items I just discussed, but we will have TEM open for the completion of expense reports that were started prior to Chrome River go live. Now that opportunity isn't going to last very long. There's going to be, we're discussing, I should say, that we will shut down TEM for new expense reports and new T-card handling on March 31st. So there's going to be roughly 2 weeks where you will still use TEM to complete things that were started prior to go live, but we really need your help in getting those taken care of quickly. TEM will remain open for some period of time for vendor payments. I just saw a question fly by about that. And for advances, to close advances. We have created functionality in Chrome River to initiate advances. So we will ask that new advances be used or be initiated in Chrome River. But if you've got a legacy advance, I'll call it, we will leave TEM open for the purpose of closing that advance in a traditional fashion. At a later date, we have plans to move the vendor payments to Chrome River, basically non-purchase order based invoices, but we've got some work to do. There's been some information exchanged. Honorarias will be processed via TEM until we can get vendor payments working. So TEM will be allowed for honorariums. No new cards will be needed. You'll use your existing cards. Your spending ability will not be interrupted. Legacy cards will be used, but transactions will stop appearing in TEM roughly Saturday the 12th. And they will start appearing in Chrome River starting Saturday the 12th. So when you log in to Chrome River come Monday the 14th, if you used your card on Saturday or Sunday, the preceding Saturday or Sunday, those transactions should show up in TEM. I'm sorry, Chrome River. We are not using Chrome River to handle the program administration. New card applications will still, at this point, be initiated by the departmental card manager in the P-card system and in what we call TCS for travel cards. We're working to combine those. at some point in the future, but the only thing that's changing February 14th is the transaction-based handling. We've gotten quite a bit of feedback about the single approver delegate. We want to make clear, we brought that up because we knew this was going to be an issue. We need for you to begin thinking about how you can organize your unit to meet the needs, their needs, with the only capability we have is for a single approver delegate. Now you can have multiple delegates to construct expense reports. Okay, so it's only the approval that is limited to a single delegate. And we'll work with you through that. We've got some guidance coming. We've got some additional job aids. We've got some white papers about that issue, because we understand that in TEM, we have enjoyed multiple approver delegates, proxies, we used to call them. And I think there's a community-wide communication plan announcing all of this on January 24th. P-card and TEM will be available for historical data somewhere. We will be migrating roles, but not delegates. So delegates, that's the job aid I was referring to. Anne is asking the question about approvers will not move. Each individual will have to set up their approver. We'll get you a job aid on that well before the 14th. So we appreciate your help with this. We're getting good feedback from users about the user interface. It appears to be much more intuitive than the old TEM system, which I was looking the other day, it's 11 years old. We've got some new functionality. You've got visibility, better visibility into things and status. You've got mobile functionality. There's good things happening here. And I see from Mary, she's got a human subject that doesn't close until 6:30. We'll work with you on that. We won't be closing. We've got to move advances. We've got to start doing new advances in Chrome River, but we will have an ability to sustain legacy advances in the existing system. TEM history will be available somewhere. I don't know that it will be in the conventional TEM presentation, but we are talking to AITS about some EDW storage of historic transactions. And yes, Kathleen, as I stated, individuals or units can set up more than one delegate to enter and prepare an ER. It's not a TEM transaction anymore. They don't call it that, but it's the approval delegate that is limited to a single approver delegate. And that better tracks and better controls the adequate controls effort that we went through. Let's see, was it a year ago? So it is a challenge in thinking about how you're going to set up your unit for delegations, but it's time that we revisited that almost on an individual by individual basis. It would not be wise to just migrate the existing approval delegate setup that we have in TEM into Chrome River.
And folks, just to follow up on what Jim is saying, and there'll be more communication guidance on that single approver delegate. But just to be clear, this is single approver per staff member, not per org, not per unit. This is per staff member. So
good point.
One unit could have multiple single approvers for different staff. And next slide, Jim, if you want to talk through that process, there is an update of the workflow of how this used to be done with TEM and how it will be done with Chrome River. Jim, I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, and here's a picture, a very, very, very high level. We used to have submitters, sometimes called owners. We had a manager reviewer, we had a charge code reviewer, and then it went to UPay. There's a couple aberrations to that, but that's kind of the way it worked. The new process, you can have a creator delegate, as I tried to explain earlier, and then you will have a manager approver. I'll call it that just to make the terms the same. And you can have a single approver delegate. Then you can also have a charge code reviewer or a budget reviewer. I've seen Chrome River use that phraseology. That's a Music Man word, I remember. And you can also have a separate, a single charge code reviewer delegate, but it goes by the person, and then it's going to go to UPay. What we don't have anymore is the ability for an org to have masses of approvers. It's a one-to-one relationship. VPN is not anticipated to be required with Chrome River, but Duo, the authentication process, will be. So you will have, you know, to answer your phone or to plug in your token or whatever. But we do not anticipate today Chrome River requiring VPN. This is a more secure system than TEM was. The approver will approve the person's work. So to answer Christopher's question, the single approver can approve T-card, P-card transactions, travel related, and miscellaneous reimbursements. The person who is being reimbursed will actually be the principal approver. So it switches a little bit of the sequence. Okay, the approver in this picture that you're looking at on the slide is actually the traveler. That's the only way we could manage the electronic signature where the state requires that every traveler attest to the accuracy and completeness of the content of the expense report. So in the lower band there of the little arrows that we're looking at, the creator designer does not have to be the traveler. The approver needs to be the traveler. Receipt function, we've added receipt functions to Chrome River that now allows you to attach images to P-card transactions, just like you have been using TEM for T-card transactions. So you won't have to keep paper files for 1.5 years or 2 years of P-card transactions. We address the training information. There's registration information coming. I think that's going to be the 31st of this month, and you can explore the link on the website or on this presentation, the PowerPoint.
And folks, we haven't announced the deployment yet. You are the first group to hear this, so we are giving you a little bit of a sneak peek. The entire community will hear about the deployment on Monday. That's where the announcement will go out. It will also have a link to the website where you can register for training session. Like Jim mentioned, training starts on 31st of January, and there are 2 sessions daily, and the sessions aren't very long. I think it's 90 minutes each session. So should you wish to review it again, you can attend another session, but you'll be able to register for many of those sessions already starting on Monday, and sessions start on the 31st. So you'll have 2 weeks before the deployment, and also there will be training daily, twice a day actually, a week after deployment. So it will continue. So you'll have plenty of chances to take training, also review job aids and any additional training resources that are available on the website. Again, Jason shared the link to the website on via chat here. It will also be available on that presentation, and it will also be published next Monday. But if you have a link, you are more than welcome to explore it right now.
And yes, the approver's name anywhere in the workflow will be visible. I think there's a button you have to push. I believe there's a query you have to run for the status of an expense report. So I don't know that it'll show up. I don't believe it shows up in the individual expense report itself, but you'll be able to tell who's got it, who's got the ball. Just like you can when you click on the, I think it's the history tab in TEM. So I have said this before, and one of the things we didn't do a very good job of when we introduced TEM, I still feel personally that TEM implementation was a success, moving us off the old Excel spreadsheets that you folks printed out or typed in and then printed out and sent it to us. And we rekeyed what you did to create the expense report in Banner. So I think it was a good implementation with TEM, but we failed to maintain any kind of continuous improvement. And we're committed with Philippe and everybody's help, Derek's help. We're going to try to have regular and periodic follow-ups with things that aren't working as cleanly or perhaps as efficiently as they could. So I guess what I'm saying is this isn't going to be perfect. There are people that will appreciate that statement because the pursuit of perfection sometimes leads us down a rabbit hole. But we believe and we know that it is functional. We've tested this for 6 months now. But there will be differences. It's a purchased product, and you know, the approver delegate, single delegate is a challenge. It's different, but it will work. And I doubt, Joy, that the approver delegate can also be the charge code reviewer. We're going to sustain segregation of duties with Chrome River. So thank you for your time. I think, is there another slide? I guess there is one more slide, right?
We are moving now to the second Valentine's gift that Aaron announced, the Contracts Plus deployment for those of you who are not ICS users and would be onboarding on Contracts Plus. And Derek will share more information about onboarding with the new system.
Yes, so just following up on what Aaron shared with you all before, the second wave of deployments for Contracts Plus, the new contract system that's replacing ICS, will be on February 14th. I'm not going to repeat any of the information Aaron gave you before because it was very good and very accurate. So what I'm going to highlight here is training and the user onboarding process. So on the website I shared previously, you can register for training sessions for the upcoming deployment. They begin on February 2nd. They run through March 9th. So for you all, there will be at least 6 sessions that you can join to learn how to use this system. I'm going to paste that link back in just so it's easily accessible for you all. So I strongly encourage you to go to the website, take a look at it, register for a session, make sure you're ready and prepared for the implementation of Contracts Plus for your unit on February 14th. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So one disadvantage to Contracts Plus that you all have an advantage for with Chrome River is implementing the access that existed in TEM. Doesn't require you to do that on your own. It's not that way with Contracts Plus. So anyone in your department who's involved in the contracting process will have to have their access to Contracts Plus requested by a unit security contact in the SecApp. So there are 2 roles that are required for each department that will be using the system. That's the contract requester who submits the contract request form. That particular role is not tied to an org code. So you only need to know the user's information to request that in the SecApp. The second role is the contract approver. And as you can see, there are 2 approval queues associated with this role, the unit head and the dean director. You need to have at least 1 individual in each of these approval queues. We'd recommend 2 if you have them. But if not, 1 is the minimum for something to flow through correctly. The unit head must approve all contracts. The dean director will only approve contracts over a certain value. Again, the same website I mentioned before has all of this information on it under the new user onboarding section, including a web form that'll walk you through the account request process. It's not required for you to use this web form. It's just a helpful tool for you if you're not sure what you need. It walks you through the steps. It tells you what roles you might need. It forwards it to your supervisor for approval, and then eventually your supervisor would forward that to the USC for processing in the security application. So I really do encourage you as the business managers for your departments, please figure out who needs access and make sure that that gets requested for them. If you have questions, you have concerns, you need assistance with getting people access to Contracts Plus, you can use that email address at the bottom, sharedservices@ulillinois.edu. That'll come to System Office Shared Services, and we're happy to assist you in making sure your folks get the access to the system that they need.
Hey, Derek, there seems to be a question, and this might be for Philippe, regarding the Chrome River training registration, how it doesn't allow you to select a specific date. Philippe, I think you just put a new post in the chat with the correct link.
Actually, the link is correct on the webpage, but it takes you to the menu of sessions via Zoom. So once you select Chrome River webinar training registration, once you click that link, it takes you to meeting registration via Zoom, and you have to pick the date that you like. And once you select that date and register, then the system will remind you of that session.
Great, thanks so much.
But I just want to make sure that it works for you, because you should see it right away when clicking the link. So if it doesn't work for you, Tiana, or anyone else, please submit a request to us and we'll address it right away. Because I just clicked it just to make sure that it works, and it does. But if it doesn't work for some of you with UIC accounts, please let us know.
Thank you. Oh, they're saying, let's see, it works, but it doesn't allow you to select a date. Is that possibly because communication hasn't gone out yet and it's going to be planned for Monday?
It's likely that the registration is not yet open since this hasn't been officially announced.
Okay. All right, more to come on that then if it's.
So we will open it, I guess, since we've announced it to you guys. I think we can open it fairly quickly. Derek, what do you think?
Yes, yeah, I will get that open as soon as we're done here.
Great.
Thank you, Diana, for letting us know. Any questions regarding Contracts Plus deployment, or any questions regarding Chrome River that haven't been answered yet?
No, I think Jim did a great job addressing all of the questions earlier in the chat, and there's the links in the chat for the training for both Contracts Plus and Chrome River.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much, Derek, and thank you all for having us. Hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you. Thanks, Bernadette and Dana.
All right, thank you, Philippe, Derek, and Jim.
Thanks, Bill.
We have one last exciting subject for you today. I'm excited to present the Office of Procurement Diversity and the Flowers Communication Group, which is an award-winning integrated marketing firm with over 30 years of experience. So it's my pleasure to kick us off. I'm going to present Shauna Claiborne. So take it away.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So yes, hopefully you still have your popcorn and your afternoon snacks for the last 15 minutes. Thank you, good afternoon. I'm Shauna Claiborne with the Office of Procurement Diversity. As you may know, our department oversees the Supply Diversity Program for the U of I system. And one of our main goals is to increase the usage and exposure of diverse firms. And as Deborah mentioned earlier, there is an overall 30% diversity goal of the total dollar amount of university and state contracts. So we're here to help you find diverse firms to meet your small or large purchasing needs. And today we have the pleasure of having Brenton Flowers, who is the Managing Director of Marketing and Business Development for Flowers Communications. As Bill mentioned, Flowers Communications is an award-winning marketing communications firm. They have worked with brands such as McDonald's, Nike, and Honda, and they're also a proud awardee of the Illinois Public Higher Education Cooperative Award, IPEC 2142 Advertising Solutions Award. So they're vetted and ready to use for your purchasing or for your advertising and marketing needs. So I'll turn it over to you, Brenton.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. And we also have our CEO, Michelle Flowers Welch, on the call,
Awesome.
who will actually be kicking us off. So I'm just going to share my screen while she gets us started here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so impressed with everything that I've heard this afternoon. There's so much robust activity going on within the University of Illinois system. And we'd love to provide support as you take a look at your advertising, your marketing, your PR and communications needs out here. So what we'll do today is give you really an overview of who and what we are. And at the end, I've got just a couple of little thought starters about how we might work with you. So on this first slide, it gives you a little quick overview about who we are. 30 years out here in business. This year we'll celebrate 31. We're certified by the National Minority Supplier Development Council. We are one of those BEP firms that Deborah talked about, and we have done extensive business with various state departments through the years. What do we do as an agency? We really create connections, connecting our clients with that multicultural consumer. We have a brand footprint that covers the United States. So of course, we're doing great work in Chicago and throughout Illinois. We're really looking at it through a diverse lens, which you definitely must, if you're a responsible brand, be doing these days. We are an award-winning firm, more than 100 awards. One of the ones I am most proud of is from Forbes as one of America's top PR agencies last year. Some of the clients we work with, Shauna alluded to a few, but look at the government entities. We're leading out now the city of Chicago on COVID-19 vaccination marketing. So we're in 77 neighborhoods throughout Chicago. We are the content developer for the Chicago Park District, so doing a lot of work with them to develop materials. Other well-known names, Nielsen, and please note Chicago State University is one of our clients, and you'll hear a little bit more about the work that we've done for them in a few. Other brands, other clients, Chicago Public Schools, the Illinois Department of Public Health that we've worked with. And one of my favorites, as a woman with 4 brothers and a household filled with sports as I was growing up, is NBA, where we did the PR work for the NBA All-Star. So there might be a way to utilize us within various universities to support some of the athletic activity as well. Our core competencies, we are what you call an integrated marketing communications firm, doing everything from internal and external communications to creative content to pure PR, influencer engagement, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to hand it back over to Brenton to really dig deep about some of the work that we've done in the education sphere.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. Hello again, everyone. Brenton Flowers, Director of Marketing and Business Development with Flowers Communications Group again. And we're going to start off just by kind of piggybacking off of what Shauna mentioned earlier. We're just so pleased the last year to have won a $5 million 5-year contract to do the media buying for the Illinois Public Higher Education Cooperative and its colleges and their 13 schools. And we've actually begun the process of connecting with these universities to utilize those capabilities. But we're also pleased to share that we've worked with our partner agency by the name of the Arthur Agency, and now they are one of 15 agencies who now received an IPAC contract to do creative work. So we're now approaching these schools, going in with creative ideas, also backed by media. So just wanted to share that. Very exciting, and really gives us a leg up and makes everything more turnkey for anything that you have in mind. We can do the creative and also handle all of your media needs. Getting into some of our previous work, Michelle mentioned Chicago State University. This was really a feel-good program for us as we assisted them with the launch of their Cougar Commitment Initiative, which really was about closing the higher education and wealth gap with Black and Brown students. The initiative included the RISE Academy, which was a year-long program for incoming freshmen where they received full tuition, free laptops and internet access, resources such as advising and workshops, and also health and wellness support. Again, very exciting program that we put together with them that garnered some fantastic media. As you can see here, the Sun-Times, the Tribune, the Chicago Defender, which is still the leading and largest Black newspaper in the country, as well as television with CBS Chicago and many others. Moving right along, another one that we're very proud of was Ombudsman Chicago, which is a part of Chance Light America. We've done work with them here as well as work with them across the country, which they really provide services for students that are off track and trying to get back on the right path. So we were tasked to position them as the #1 option school in Chicago, drive enrollment, retention, and graduation. So what we ended up doing was implementing a robust 360 integrated marketing campaign that consisted of advertising, media relations, social media, and stakeholder engagement. This came to life through the Big Shoulders campaign, which is what our creative department came up with, which was an ode to Carl Sandburg's City of Big Shoulders, you know, describing Chicago's strong work ethic, its working class spirit, et cetera, et cetera. And this campaign really showcased the resilience and determination and hard work that these kids were putting in the classroom. Again, one that we were very proud of as they shared their stories throughout the campaign via Facebook, YouTube, Pandora. We did a television commercial and also out-of-home billboards and radio spots. So as you can see here on the left, that was what we had running on Pandora. In the middle there, that's some earned media relations that was really targeted towards that Gen Z / student. And then again, Black media on the right with the Chicago Defender. Here is what our out-of-home looked like, and we strategically geo-targeted and placed these in neighborhoods that would really grab the attention of students and parents, which also helped to increase enrollment across Chicago. More print for you there, the Defender and OI. One thing that Michelle didn't mention is we are a multicultural and multi-generational, large Hispanic staff at Flowers, African-American staff, and Asian staff as well. Here's what it looked like from a social media standpoint with some of our influencers. That's Leon Rogers from WGCI and UB Rodriguez, who also was formerly on the station. And then as we look at the bottom line of what happened, we were able to tap into 1 million homes during the Bud Billiken Day Parade with this client, garner 7 million impressions and counting via earned media relations. And last but certainly not least, one of our proud achievements at Flowers as we talk about awards and accolades. The year that we did this program, there was 100% college acceptance. So we're very proud of that. And right now I'm going to toss it back to Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenton. I thought it would be appropriate if we could talk more specifically about the University of Illinois system and some of the things that we might be able to do, help you amplify any efforts that are going on in terms of student recruitment, doing everything from a creative campaign, utilizing all the different elements that Brenton talked through, to the actual media buying, whether your media focus is going to be in the Midwest or whether you reach out to feeder markets as well. We're an agency that can really provide that kind of support. We could help you promote current programs that you have, utilizing public relations, social media, virtual events. I talked earlier about athletic programs, but cultural programs that you might be doing, academic programs that you might be doing out there. We're an agency that can help you and various departments put those programs on the map. And then supporting some of BMG's work. I was listening today at all the wonderful systems you have in place, new systems, new procedures, re-energizing old procedures out here. So we have creative services that we can provide. Maybe there's a digital toolkit we can help put together internal advertising to support some of this great work, maybe helping to package some of the reports that are out here, taking a look at the website, and just even putting together a promotional plan, because so often people don't really understand the infrastructure and the backbone of an organization, which is who all of you are. So maybe there's the need to kind of promote that to make people better appreciate and understand how it's the lifeline of everything that goes on within the university. So those are just a couple of things that we might be able to do for to support your work and other departments. Why would you utilize us? The return on objectives and ROI. We bring this multicultural lens that Brenton talked about. We can help you maximize some of the assets you already have and coordinate some of the things that the university may feel need a little more synergy. We're utilizing traditional mechanisms like PR, but more innovative content and social media and creative tactics. And we are, with 30 years in the business, delivering a smart, expert approach to connect various departments with key target audiences. So I'd love for you to give our information to folks within your departments or other departments where you see there might be a need. I will be happy to present to anyone else something more specific to help support whatever their goals and objectives are for this great system that we have throughout Illinois. Any questions that we can answer for you?
I don't see any questions or comments in the chat yet, but we can give it a minute. Sometimes it takes everyone a minute or two to type in their questions.
Well, if you don't have any now, please feel free to reach out to us. Shauna, if you can share the deck with everyone, we are more than happy to have some one-on-one meetings and conversations with you as well to get more specific about how we can help provide support to the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for your time at the end of what has been an action-packed, very productive meeting for you all.
All right, well, thank you so much, Michelle and Brenton. And lots of great partners and lots of great campaigns. So if anyone wants to use these services, I believe you can reach out to the Office of Procurement Diversity for more information, or UIC Purchasing. So thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for coming today. There was a lot of information presented today. A reminder that this presentation has been recorded if you want to reference any part of it. We will work on compiling the questions and trying to get those that were unanswered answered. And I want everyone to stay safe and well until our next meeting. And I think I see the dates up here. So we will see everyone again on March 16th, the same time. Thank you so much, everyone.